Under the scorching Nevada sun, Emily Reyes stands silently as black SUVs approach the tense Navy base. In a green flight suit, Emily faces a grounded F, divided by A-18, and the doubts of every man watching her defy the impossible. Storm clouds close in as the old jet roars to life. Emily's steady hands guided through chaos and lightning. The crowd falls silent as Emily lands the unflyable jet. Her calm defiance turns disbelief into awe. At sunset, Emily stands beside the scarred jet,
You've made us all
orders
very
in
proud,
hand,
Emily.
knowing
This
she's
is for
earned the
you.
sky once more. Would you dare to fly when everyone says it's impossible? Subscribe now for more true stories of courage, redemption, and the human spirit that never gives up. The Nevada sun scorched the runway at Naval Air Station Fallon as Lieutenant Commander Emily Reyes stood among a line of officers waiting for the unannounced arrival of Admiral Robert Hastings. She wasn't in uniform, just worn jeans, a plain gray shirt, and running shoes. It was supposed to be her day off, but an encrypted message had summoned her. Report to Fallon, 1,400 hours, civilian attire. Do not be late. No sender, no explanation. The base buzzed with nervous energy. Security patrols had doubled, maintenance crews polished every surface until it shone, and junior officers rehearsed their salutes like their careers depended on it. When an admiral visited Fallon, it wasn't routine, it was legendary. Emily adjusted her sunglasses and watched the heat shimmer off the tarmac. Around her, whispers spread. "Who's she?" murmured a pilot named Lieutenant Mark Dalton, nudging his friend. "Some civilian contractor?" The other shrugged. "Maybe someone's girlfriend." She heard every word but ignored it. She'd learned long ago that silence often said more than confrontation ever could. Then the roar of approaching engines broke the chatter. A convoy of black SUVs rolled through the gates, flanked by MPs on motorcycles. Doors opened in perfect unison. A wave of staff security, aides, communications officers fanned out with military precision. Then Admiral Hastings stepped out, his crisp white uniform gleaming in the desert light. 4 stars catching the Sunday, every officer snapped to attention. He scanned the lineup with calm authority, his eyes briefly landing on Emily before moving on. Why would an admiral notice me? She wondered. But when he spoke, his first words sent a ripple through the ranks. "I'm looking for Lieutenant Commander Emily Reyes." Heads turned. Confusion spread. The woman in civilian clothes stepped forward and saluted. "Here, sir." The crowd fell silent. No one expected that. Not from her. And in that instant, everything at Fallon began to change. The air inside the administrative building was cool, but the tension was sharp enough to cut through steel. Admiral Hastings dismissed his aides, leaving only Captain Walker, the base commander, and Lieutenant Commander Emily Reyes. He opened a sealed folder marked Top Secret and placed it on the table. "Captain," the admiral began evenly, "what do you know about Project Abyss?" Walker frowned. "Nothing, sir. That's above my clearance level." "Exactly," Hastings replied. "Few people know it exists. Reyes here has been its operations officer for the past 18 months, coordinating intelligence across 3 continents. Walker's professional mask faltered. He glanced at Emily, disbelief flickering across his face. "With respect, sir. Her? She looks ordinary?" Hastings cut in, his tone cool. "That's precisely why she's survived missions most wouldn't return from." Emily stood silently, hands clasped behind her back. She'd heard this reaction too many times to count. People saw a young woman slim, quiet, unassuming, and assumed weakness. What they never saw were the scars beneath her calm exterior, the price of 12 years in covert operations. The admiral continued. "Lieutenant Commander Reyes completed SEAL training, Class 347, 3rd overall, 1st in underwater demolitions. Her work in Project Abyss prevented a catastrophic breach in our Pacific Fleet. She's earned this." Walker swallowed. "Understood, sir." Hastings nodded, then turned to Emily. "That's why you're here. NAS Fallon will become the base for a new Joint Special Operations program. You'll take command effective immediately. For a heartbeat, silence filled the room. Outside, word was spreading fast. Officers whispered in clusters, the rumor mill burning at full throttle. A civilian woman was called in by an admiral. Some secret reassignment. Maybe a cover-up. When the admiral, Captain Walker, and Emily stepped back outside, the gathered personnel snapped to attention once more. Hastings's voice carried across the tarmac like a thunderclap. "This is your new commanding officer for Special Operations Unit 9 Commander Emily Reyes." Murmurs rippled through the ranks. The same pilots who had mocked her earlier now stared in stunned silence. Emily stepped forward. She didn't look imposing. She didn't have to. The quiet authority in her eyes said everything. "I don't need your admiration," she said firmly. "Just your discipline. This unit will operate in the gray, where the rules aren't clear and mistakes cost lives. You'll be tested. Some of you won't make it. But those who do will redefine what this base is capable of." Her gaze swept across the group and landed briefly on Lieutenant Dalton. "You're not here to see if I'm worthy of command," she finished. "You're here to prove you deserve to serve under it." The crowd remained motionless, stunned by the calm power in her tone. And for the first time that day, Fallon's endless noise faded into silence. Something new and unstoppable had just begun. 2 weeks later, Commander Emily Reyes stood on the edge of the deep-water training pool, her reflection fractured by ripples. Around her, the newly formed Special Operations Unit 9 was struggling. Oxygen drills, underwater navigation, precision timing, everything that separated professionals from survivors. "Again," Emily ordered. Lieutenant Dalton surfaced, gasping. "Ma'am, we've already done 5 rounds." "Then the 6th should be perfect," she said, her tone calm but unyielding. She knelt by the pool's edge as Dalton caught his breath. "You missed your checkpoint by 40 meters. Trust your compass, count your kicks, and stop guessing. Out there, guessing gets people killed." He nodded, shame flickering in his eyes, and dove back under. From the observation deck, Master Chief O'Neill watched the scene with his arms crossed. "You're pushing them hard, Commander." "They need it," Emily replied. "Half this unit hasn't seen real combat. The other half has forgotten what it costs." O'Neill grunted. "You remind me of someone I used to serve under, Captain Thorne. Relentless." Emily allowed a small smile. "I learned from the best." That night, as the base quieted, a secure message arrived on her encrypted terminal. Classified tasking. Priority 1. Civilian research vessel Argo missing South China Sea. Last transmission, 2140 local. Possible hostile interference. Unit 9 assigned immediate deployment. Objective: locate vessel. Assess. Extract personnel if alive. Emily exhaled slowly. Their first mission. She summoned her senior officers, Lieutenant Commander Hayes, her tactical lead, Lieutenant Patel, intelligence and comms, and against her better judgment, Lieutenant Dalton, the pilot. When she told him he was joining, Dalton blinked. "With respect, ma'am, why me? I'm barely qualified for recon." "Because you need to understand what real operations look like," Emily said, "and because your flight instincts might save our lives." 3 days later, under moonless skies, a black Zodiac boat sliced through choppy waters toward the coordinates. The Argo loomed ahead, silent, dark, abandoned. Patel scanned his handheld thermal reader. No heat signatures, no power, no movement. Emily's instincts screamed danger. "Weapons ready. We go in quiet." They climbed the ship's ladder one by one, boots landing softly on wet steel. Inside, the corridors were a ghost's domain. Coffee cups sat half full. Computers hummed on standby. In the communications room, Hayes crouched beside a smear of blood. "Not much," he whispered, "but fresh. Maybe 6 hours old." "They were taken," Emily said. "No bodies. No distress call. That means capture, not execution. Dalton frowned. By who? That's what we're going to find out. Over the next 18 hours, the team pieced together the mystery. Satellite intercepts pointed to a small, uncharted island 20 kilometers north, recent activity, encrypted transmissions, and a dock large enough for a small transport vessel. When Emily briefed the team, Patel hesitated. Commander, these coordinates are inside another nation's territorial zone. We're not authorized for entry. No, Emily said evenly. We're not. Which is why, if this goes wrong, we were never here. Dalton stared at her. You mean this is completely off the books? Yes. Welcome to Special Operations. They moved out at dawn. Jungle humidity wrapped around them like a second skin as they slipped ashore on the island. The plan was simple: locate, extract, exfiltrate, but plans never survived contact with reality. Halfway through the tree line, a burst of gunfire shattered the silence. Hayes returned fire instantly. Ambush! Take cover! Emily shouted. The team dove behind fallen logs as bullets tore through leaves and bark. Dalton froze, his rifle shaking in his hands. Ma'am, they're flanking. Focus, Lieutenant, Emily barked. On my mark, smoke left, move right. She lobbed a canister, white smoke billowing. The team shifted positions, returning controlled fire. Within minutes, the attackers, mercenaries, by their markings, fell back deeper into the jungle. Emily exhaled, checking her vest. A round had slammed into her chestplate, bruising ribs but not breaking focus. Hayes dragged a wounded civilian researcher from a nearby hut. We found one, alive. Then we're getting him out, Emily said, scanning for exfil options. Dalton's voice came over comms. Ma'am, there's a civilian helicopter on the east dock, barely functional, but I can make it fly. Then make it happen, she said. Under heavy fire, the team sprinted toward the clearing. Emily fired covering shots, every movement precise. Patel helped Hayes load the injured researcher, while Dalton hot-wired the helicopter, blades coughing to life. Everyone aboard! Emily shouted, diving in last as bullets ricocheted off the frame. Dalton yanked the stick, and the helicopter lifted, unsteady but climbing. Tracer rounds streaked past as Emily leaned out the open door, returning fire until the island disappeared beneath them. As the ocean swallowed the horizon, silence filled the cabin, broken only by the churning blades and the rasp of breathing. Dalton looked back at her, eyes wide. We weren't supposed to survive that. Emily gave a faint, exhausted smile. Get used to it, Lieutenant. Around here, survival is part of the job description. Below them, the South China Sea shimmered like liquid glass, beautiful, endless, and hiding secrets she knew they'd soon have to face again. When Emily landed, the desert was no longer silent. Sirens wailed across the base, and emergency vehicles streaked toward the runway. She opened the cockpit canopy, sweat dripping down her temples, the oxygen mask still tight against her face. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the aftershock of total control. As the canopy lifted, the ground crew stared as if seeing a ghost. The jet that had been declared unflyable just hours ago had not only flown, but had completed the entire exercise perfectly. Two mechanics rushed forward, disbelief etched on their faces. Ma'am, this thing shouldn't even be airborne, one shouted over the noise. Emily smiled faintly, unstrapping herself. Then you'd better update your records, she replied, stepping down from the ladder. The tarmac's heat hit her like a wall, but inside, a cooler calm settled in. She had proven what she came here to prove. From across the airfield, Admiral Hastings approached slowly, his expression unreadable. Officers trailed behind him, whispering among themselves. Mark Dalton stood at the edge of the crowd, his jaw tight with a mix of awe and guilt. He remembered his own words from earlier. She's just a civilian. Now that sentence burned in his throat. Hastings stopped in front of Emily, boots crunching on the gravel. "Lieutenant Commander," he said, his voice steady but edged with something respect, perhaps. "That was the cleanest recovery I've seen in a decade." Emily didn't answer right away. She met his gaze, tired but unflinching. "Sir, the aircraft just needed someone who believed it could still fly." He nodded slowly, the faintest smile breaking through his stern facade. And maybe the Navy needed to be reminded the same. Turning to the onlookers, he barked, "You've all just witnessed textbook discipline and instinct. Remember this moment. That's what leadership looks like." The crowd straightened, their skepticism dissolving into admiration. Some even clapped quietly, uncertain if it was allowed, but unable to stop themselves. As Hastings walked away, Emily finally exhaled. She glanced back at the F divided by A-18, its paint scorched, its wings trembling from strain but standing proud under the Sunday. The symbol of her past, her doubt, her fight, and her redemption. In the control tower, the base loudspeaker crackled. "Simulation complete. Pilot, Lieutenant Commander Emily Reyes. Score, 100%. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Mark approached her, his voice soft. "Ma'am, I think we owe you an apology." Emily looked at him, then at the jet behind her. "No," she said quietly. "You owe yourself a better belief in what's possible." That evening, the sun dipped low over the Nevada desert, painting the hangars in gold. The F divided by A-18 rested silent, still streaked with dust from its impossible flight. Emily stood alone beside it, her hand brushing the cool metal of its fuselage. For the first time in years, she felt no need to prove anything to anyone. Behind her, footsteps approached. Admiral Hastings stopped a few feet away, his cap tucked under one arm. "You know," he said quietly, "I called you here because your record didn't make sense. You were grounded for injuries, but your simulator scores outperformed every pilot under 30. I needed to see if it was instinct or luck." Emily smiled faintly. "So which one was it, sir?" "Neither," he said. "It was heart, the kind of thing no manual can teach." He extended a folder toward her orders, stamped and sealed. "You're reinstated, Lieutenant Commander Reyes. Report to Top Gun next week. They could use someone who remembers why we fly." As he walked away, the dry wind carried the faint echo of jets roaring in the distance. Emily looked back at the sky, endless, unforgiving, beautiful. She smiled, not in triumph, but in peace. In every squadron, stories spread quickly. By morning, no one spoke of the civilian woman who had wandered onto the base. They spoke of the veteran who flew the Unflyable, and reminded everyone that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about believing again, even when the engines have gone silent.